Hello and welcome back to the Movie Memo Recaps. Today we are going to recap a 2010 movie titled Night and Day. Please be advised that there will be spoilers ahead. Roy Miller arrives at the airport, only to discover that his flight has been delayed. To pass the time, he indulges in ice cream, immerses himself in video games, and browses through action figures. It's during this aimless wandering that he notices a woman who captures his attention, June Miller, who is returning to Boston after purchasing car parts. Intrigued, Roy follows her through the terminal and accidentally bumps into her, leaving a memorable impression. As June checks her luggage with a curious TSA agent, she shares that she repairs junk cars for a living. Their paths cross again when she hurries off, and they both make their way to the gate, where June learns she has been bumped to a later flight. Meanwhile, Roy successfully passes through security but is being monitored by CIA agent Fitzgerald. Fitzgerald reveals that Roy is wanted for blowing up a lab and stealing a device known as the Zephyr. CIA Director Isabel George has tasked Fitzgerald with retrieving it, and he suspects that Roy and June may be working together after witnessing their interactions on surveillance. Just as June is informed that a seat has opened up on the earlier flight, Roy catches sight of her boarding, sensing that Fitzgerald has ulterior motives. As the plane takes off, it appears surprisingly empty despite being overbooked. June engages Roy in conversation about her sister April's upcoming wedding, sharing her passion for cars, a love passed down from her late father. She reveals her project of restoring a 1966 GTO that belonged to her father, which she plans to gift to April. June dreams of completing the car and driving it all the way to Cape Horn, while Roy expresses his desire to travel the world and share a kiss with a stranger in France, piquing June's interest. Suddenly, turbulence strikes, causing luggage to topple onto June and spilling her drink. She excuses herself to the bathroom, unaware that outside, Roy is facing off against several men and flight staff who turn out to be CIA operatives sent by Fitzgerald. While June talks to herself about fulfilling one of Roy's wishes by kissing a stranger, Roy engages in a fierce battle with the agents. One steward demands the Zephyr, but Roy disarms him and presses for answers about why Fitzgerald put June on the plane. In the chaos, one of the pilots accidentally shoots the steward dead. In retaliation, Roy shoots the pilot, inadvertently leading to the death of the second pilot. When June finally exits the bathroom, she finds Roy standing among the chaos he has just resolved. In a moment of impulsive connection, she kisses him, only to realize moments later that the plane is descending rapidly. Roy calmly informs her that he has shot both pilots, but she laughs in disbelief at what seems like an absurd joke. As he rushes to the cockpit to regain control of the aircraft, June's laughter fades into horror as she comprehends the grim reality. Everyone around her is dead. In a state of panic, June rushes to the cockpit, only to be confronted by the shocking sight of the two pilots lying dead. Overwhelmed by fear, she struggles to process the chaos around her. Meanwhile, Roy remains composed, securing her in her seat before executing an emergency landing on a highway, ultimately bringing the plane to a halt in a nearby field. He hands her a drink and tends to a gunshot wound she hasn't fully registered. However, unbeknownst to her, the drink is laced with a sedative designed to knock her out. As the drug begins to take effect, Roy urgently explains that dangerous men will soon come looking for her. He instructs her to deny any knowledge of him when they arrive, warning her that they will present themselves as federal agents and label him as a significant threat. He emphasizes the key phrases she should listen for, as they will indicate whether her life is in jeopardy. Soon after, June succumbs to the drug and drifts into unconsciousness. When she wakes up in bed the next morning, she initially believes it to be a dream, until she discovers a note from Roy and the breakfast he prepared for her before leaving. Turning on the TV, she is confronted by a news report detailing the plane crash. Just then, there's a knock at the door. It's her firefighter ex-boyfriend Rodney, who has come to check on her after hearing about the crash. Despite his concern, she feigns ignorance about the news. Later, while attending a fitting for her sister April's wedding, June learns that April intends to sell their father's cherished GTO. As she steps outside, a stranger warns her that her car is about to receive a ticket. However, as she approaches her vehicle, she finds herself surrounded by agents led by Fitz, who demands that she get into a car with them. Fitz introduces himself as an FBI agent and shows her surveillance footage of herself and Roy at the airport, pressing her for details about their conversation. He mentions a name, Simon Feck, but June is baffled and claims she doesn't understand. She insists on speaking with her lawyer, but Fitz insists they must take her to a secure location for her protection until Roy is apprehended. As they transfer her to another vehicle, June questions their destination, but the agents reassure her that they are only keeping her safe until things stabilize. It's then that she hears the very phrases Roy warned her about. Suddenly, gunfire erupts, hitting the convoy and claiming the lives of several agents, including her driver. In the chaos, the agent beside her abandons the car, leaving June to take control of the vehicle. Just as panic sets in, Roy lands on the hood of her car and opens fire on an approaching vehicle, causing it to explode. Roy urges June to unlock the door, but she remains focused on maintaining control of the car. Amidst a fierce shootout with pursuing agents, June finally opens the door, which gets ripped off in the process, leading to a crash that takes out some of their attackers. With the car now disabled, Roy pulls June from the wreckage for cover and manages to find 2 rifles in the trunk just in time to fend off 2 men closing in on them. He instructs her to stay put while he engages in a gun battle with their assailants. However, overwhelmed by fear and instinct for survival, June bolts from their hiding place and jumps onto a passing bus. She believes she has escaped, until Roy reappears. In desperation, she flees towards the fire station where Rodney works, hoping for safety amidst the chaos that surrounds her. The 2 friends decide to grab lunch, and during their meal, she reveals a shocking truth: she was involved in the plane crash and encountered the man responsible for the deaths of everyone on board. However, Rodney interprets her confession as a sign of stress rather than the gravity of her situation. Just then, Roy pulls up a chair, asserting that they need to stick together. June is hesitant to join him, prompting Roy to abruptly handcuff her and brandish a gun, threatening Rodney and the others to stay back or face dire consequences. He drags June towards his car, and when Rodney attempts to intervene, Roy is forced to shoot him in the leg before making a hasty escape. As they drive away, Roy explains that local law enforcement will now view her as his hostage. June, furious over Rodney's injury, demands he stop the car and let her go, insisting she felt safer with the agents. In response, Roy pulls into a parking lot and warns her that without him, her chances of survival are slim. He has urgent matters to attend to, as someone is depending on him to see this through. In a moment of desperation, he steals another car nearby, but June has a change of heart and decides to join him. Later, while watching the news, June sees Rodney being celebrated as a hero. As they hit the road together, Roy reveals the object everyone is after, what appears to be an ordinary battery but is actually a groundbreaking perpetual energy source known as Zephyr. This device, created by a young genius named Simon Feck, has the potential to power an entire submarine or even a small city. Roy explains that he was assigned to protect Simon at a lab alongside Fitz but discovered that Fitz intended to sell Zephyr and eliminate Simon. In a twist of fate, Roy saved both Simon and the battery, leading Fitz to label him a rogue agent. Their plan is to retrieve Simon and ensure June makes it back in time for her sister's wedding. Roy reassures her of his commitment to her safety. They arrive at a boathouse in Brooklyn where Roy has hidden Simon. While searching Simon's room, Roy discovers a secret message left for him. Outside, June finds herself playing with Roy's gun, fully aware that mercenaries are closing in on their location. Suddenly, Roy bursts outside and opens fire on the approaching threats, inadvertently blowing up Simon's room in the process. He grabs 2 submachine guns and instructs June to stay close as he engages the mercenaries. Believing these mercenaries are affiliated with a Spanish arms dealer named Antonio Quintana, who also covets the battery, Roy urges June to remain behind while he seeks an escape route, leaving her with a gun for protection. After disappearing for a while, he returns unexpectedly, causing June to panic and fire shots in confusion, which even startles the mercenaries. Roy quickly intervenes, handing her a drink meant to counteract smoke grenades. However, it turns out to be another ploy to sedate her before their capture. As she drifts in and out of consciousness, Roy manages to evade capture. Eventually, they find themselves leaping from a smoking plane into the vast sea below. When June finally regains full awareness, she discovers herself lying in a hammock on a beach while Roy has just caught them some fish for their next meal. He reveals that they are at his secluded off-grid location and will soon reunite with Simon, but June is furious that he drugged her again and demands to know how she ended up in a bikini. Roy insists he didn't peek, but in her anger, June attempts to punch him. She then snatches a shirt and bolts into the forest. Accidentally taking Roy's phone with her, she notices a motion alert from an address and sees a man washing a car. Just then, she receives a call from April and frantically tries to find a signal, only to realize they are stranded on an island in the middle of the ocean. Unbeknownst to her, Antonio has tracked the call, and his men are already on their way. Returning to the beach where Roy has prepared lunch, June confronts him, eager to fight. Roy seizes her to demonstrate how to escape his hold. They share a fleeting moment of connection, but June's curiosity about his true identity is interrupted when a spy craft suddenly opens fire on them, forcing them to seek shelter. Confused about how they were discovered, June reveals the phone call she made. In response, Roy unveils a concealed helicopter hidden on the island. When June pleads to be sedated again, Roy applies pressure to a point on her neck, rendering her unconscious. She later awakens on a train in the Alps. Making her way to the dining car, she encounters a man she initially believes to be Simon Feck and introduces herself as Roy's friend. However, she soon spots a note left by Roy indicating that he is with Simon and excuses herself from the bar. Meanwhile, Roy is indeed with Simon, who expresses concern that the Zephyr is overheating and needs cooling. As June tries to escape from the man who approached her, she finds herself in the kitchen just as he kills the chef and grabs her, demanding to know the whereabouts of Simon. June fights back valiantly until Roy bursts into the kitchen. Recognizing the assailant as Bernard, an assassin sent for Simon, Roy intervenes. Despite Bernard's strength, he manages to throw Roy around before seizing June again, but she manages to stab him with a knife in the chaos. As he pulls the knife out, Roy kicks him out of the window. Afterward, Fitz and his agents board the train upon spotting Roy outside, but he quickly vanishes from view. The three of them check into a hotel where June looks forward to dinner with Roy. However, he informs her he must leave for a meeting but promises to join her later. Secretly following him through the streets, June witnesses him meet a woman and enter a restaurant together. The woman turns out to be Naomi, Antonio's henchwoman. Inside, Roy is seen negotiating the sale of the Zephyr, communicating with Antonio through her earpiece and stressing that time is running out. In disbelief and shock, June flees and runs into Fitz and his agent, who take her to meet director Isabel. Struggling to trust anyone anymore, Isabel urges her to consider the evidence. Roy is the one selling the battery and has been deceiving her all along. They present June with video footage from the airport, revealing that Roy exploited her trust to smuggle the Zephyr through security. Isabel warns June to abandon any illusions of a future with Roy, emphasizing that he is a professional liar. They seek June's assistance, providing her with a transmitter cleverly disguised as a pen, which she can use to alert them when Roy has the Zephyr in his possession. Returning to the hotel before Roy, she waits anxiously as he arrives with the increasingly hot Zephyr, hastily dropping it into ice. Confronting him about his betrayal and intentions to sell the Zephyr, she is met with silence as he deflects her questions. In a moment of desperation, she activates the transmitter and explains that the CIA will protect him. Suddenly, agents burst into the room, but Roy vanishes with the Zephyr. Outside, chaos ensues as agents spot him fleeing across rooftops, pursued by cars and helicopters. June is escorted from the room and taken to Isabel's car, where she watches as Roy leaps from rooftop to rooftop, the agents closing in around him. Cornered, Roy opens fire but is shot and falls into the river. The agents secure Simon and plan to retrieve both Roy's body and the Zephyr while June returns home to attend April's wedding. Meanwhile, Simon is being transported by Fitz and another agent when Fitz unexpectedly shoots the agent dead, revealing a plan to ship Simon off to Spain. Back at her garage, June decides to keep the GTO and recalls an address from Roy's phone. She pulls up the location and sets out in the GTO, soon realizing she is being followed. With quick thinking, she manages to lose her pursuer. Arriving at the address that night, she encounters an elderly couple, Frank and Molly, who confront her. Claiming to have brought parts for Frank's car, she is invited inside. As they talk, she learns they have lived there for 40 years and won various lotteries but have no knowledge of Roy. Then, June sees photographs of a young man identified as Matthew, Molly's son who died in the army, revealing a deeper connection to Roy than she anticipated. Apologizing for the intrusion, she leaves. Determined, June leaves a message on her answering machine declaring that she possesses the Zephyr and wishes to negotiate, providing her location. Moments later, she finds herself surrounded by Antonio's men and is kidnapped. Taken to Spain, she meets Antonio, who injects her with a truth serum. As its effects begin to take hold, she realizes Roy orchestrated her following him and overhearing his plans so that she would ultimately turn him in for a chance to return home. Frustrated by her incessant chatter, Antonio demands the Zephyr, but June insists that she does not believe Roy is dead. Outside on a rooftop, Roy reappears just as Fitz arrives at Antonio's heavily guarded compound. In a moment of tension, June tells Antonio that she lied about having the Zephyr. Her true intention was to find Roy, whom she believes is still nearby. Antonio departs, heading to meet Fitz to finalize the deal for Simon's transfer at a nearby river. Unbeknownst to them, Roy has planted a tracker on Simon, who is concealed within Fitz's trunk. Just as Roy is about to make his move, he spots June being led away by several men. With precision and stealth, he begins to take them out one by one, ultimately disarming the last assailant and delivering a message to Antonio. He possesses the battery and is coming for him, before knocking the man unconscious. Roy then finds June, who is under the influence of truth serum. In her dazed state, she expresses an unexpected excitement and a desire for intimacy, but Roy, prioritizing her well-being, urges her to hydrate. Amidst the chaos of gunfire aimed at him, June misinterprets his demeanor, believing he isn't pleased to see her. In a moment that defies expectations, Roy disregards the danger and kisses her passionately. They manage to escape the compound on a motorcycle, pursued by men in cars. As they follow Simon's tracker, Antonio realizes that Roy has the battery and is on his way to confront him. Spotting Fitz's car, they inadvertently find themselves caught in the middle of a bull run, with bullets whizzing past. The chase leads them through a stadium where Antonio attempts to shoot Roy, but his car is trampled in the chaos. They catch up with Fitz and Simon, but Antonio's men continue to fire at them. In a bold move, Roy hands June the gun and encourages her to defend them. When other pursuers attempt to block their path, June skillfully shoots out a tire, resulting in a spectacular crash. Roy praises June's surprising skills as they accelerate towards Fitz, who is making his way to a waiting jet. They push ahead and reach an overpass just as Fitz arrives at the docks and drags Simon from the vehicle. In a desperate bid, Roy leaps over the overpass and races to intercept Fitz. When Fitz draws his weapon, demanding that Roy toss his guns into the water in exchange for Simon's life, Roy reluctantly complies despite Simon's desperate pleas. As Roy throws the Zephyr to Fitz, Simon inadvertently reveals that he can create another one. With tension mounting, Roy rushes to Simon just as Fitz fires a shot. June watches in horror as Fitz takes off in his jet while Simon kneels over Roy, only to discover that Simon has merely fainted. He apologizes for mishandling the battery, but Roy had already anticipated its instability. As Fitz's jet ascends, it becomes clear that the battery is overheating, leading to a catastrophic explosion over the sea. In the aftermath, June realizes that Roy has been shot and quickly sends Simon for help. She cradles him tenderly as he tells her she is beautiful. Later, Roy awakens in a hospital room with Director Isabel at his side. She informs him that Simon has been given his own lab and that June has moved on with her life. Using coded language, Isabel subtly hints that they are planning to eliminate him. That night, as Roy drifts in and out of consciousness, his nurse administers his medication. Seizing an opportunity during a moment of distraction, he is stealthily broken out of his room and escapes in June's GTO, feeling the warmth of the sun on his face. Once fully awake, he finds himself sitting in the GTO on a serene beach. June returns to the car, curious about how he changed into new clothes but playfully assures him she didn't peek. Together, they hit the road towards Cape Horn, where Roy's parents have also received tickets, symbolizing a new beginning for both of them. Thank you for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more recaps. Until next time, have a nice day.